Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the mini paint challenge. Today is week 27 and we are going to be painting something for Valentine's this week because it's February. I am excited. If you're new here, here is this side. Here is the little how to get started and join the challenge. You can also just hang out for these live streams too. I love when you guys come say hi from Instagram, even if you can't paint during that period of time. But if you use the hashtag mini paint challenge after you have done the painting and tag me, oh my goodness, and tag me at Josol Art, then I can show your art some love. So let's get right into the painting today. I'll move to the next slide. I'm just chilling in my onesie today. I've got all of this kind of set out. I still had a few colors from last painting that I did, so I kept some of those on the palette. I'm going to go through right now, I guess, my color palette. I have decided for these challenges to make it a little bit easier by sticking with a really simple color palette. So then you only have to get these colors, oh my goodness, every time if you want to join in. So I'm going to show you that palette now. I also recently posted a YouTube video that shows all of these different colors and explains why I like using these colors. And I'll kind of explain it today as I'm going through slowly. But I will show you my little color palette. So I've got all of these colors here. We're going to be pretty much just working with these ones today. And then I've also got titanium white. So we'll put that on the palette first. I'll make a little line up here. I kind of put my camera over to the side today. You can see half of my head. It works for the main painting scene though. I just don't want to have to twist the camera over there when I go to paint on the main scene. I realized that like this light is, look how I need to get my other white too at some point. Alright, well hopefully that's enough white. Got titanium white. We're just doing a small painting, so I like using 3 by 3 inch. I use what's it, Archie's oil paper for mine. It's a specific like canvas oil paper, so it's actually cotton made of like you would with canvas, and you can paint directly on it. You don't have to prime it or anything, which is really nice. I find it's like easier for beginners, but I also just like it too because it's a softer surface than a canvas, and I find there's like less of those like canvas lines on it when I use it. So I would definitely recommend getting some if you want to try out kind of like an easier surface that you don't have to prime, and they're easier to store too. So if you're just practicing, then a little bit easier to store. So I'll maybe explain these as I'm putting them on. So the first one is titanium white, and then the next one is quinacridone magenta, and then we've got alizarin crimson, and this one is cadmium red light, the one I just put on. And then this next one here is cadmium lemon, or you could also use cadmium yellow light. I have both of those. I just ended up buying this one because it was the only one in the store when I was traveling. And then the next one will be sap green. Got a little sap green. It's the only secondary color I like keeping on my palette, just because I really like really like having that one secondary color because I find I use it. I might not use it a bunch today because it's not really part of the painting, but. And then this one is cerulean blue hue. A very nice cyan color, which is great. I was talking about that in my latest video about the color palettes I base all of my paintings off of, and I use like the traditional one you would learn in school, which is the red, yellow, blue palette. But I also, if you've ever worked with printers a lot, they use a palette called the CMYK, which is cyan, magenta, and yellow, and then also black. I don't use black in my paintings. I will show you what we will do for the darker areas because there is kind of, well, let me grab my little arrow here. You can see in some of these sections that there is some of those darker colors there. And I like to use a bit of the last color here was ultramarine blue. Sorry, I missed that one. And then I also like to combine it with alizarin crimson, and it makes a really deep purple, which is really nice for those darker areas. Okay. Oh, I forgot to put these on. Well, this one is sap green. And then I've got one's the cadmium red light, and then I just had some more alizarin crimson as well. Maybe use those ones first. And then I've just kind of got an old rag here. Trying not to get it on my fingers. Go. Okay. I'll leave my rag over to the side for now. And we can start color mixing. So I've got forgot to mention at the start, you can go and download, so you can just pause this if you're watching it back. You can go download the reference photos on my website. And if you go to the mini paint challenge link on my website or in my YouTube bio, it'll take you straight to the page, and you can press the little button that says reference photos. It'll bring you down to the bottom of the page, and it has all the past weeks of reference photos, which my husband helped me set up on my website, so then you guys could all like download the high quality reference. You can also sign up to my email list because I send them out to my email list every month, and then you'll just get it every single month straight into your inbox too, which is a little bit easier. I started doing that because I'm like, no, I should send them out. I know, it makes it a little bit easier that way. Okay, and got my reference photo right in front here. I'm gonna start out with, let's start out with the cupcake colors. Oh my goodness, I'm yawning. We will start out with some of these darker pinks in here. And then there's like little sprinkles. I think I'll add most of the sprinkles onto it because I like the little heart shapes. Maybe I'll even add a few extra little heart-shaped sprinkles too. We'll improvise a little bit. So I think for the pink, I'm going to use quinacridone magenta because I think, so sometimes if you're not sure what pink you want to use, you could take a little bit of the quinacridone and you can take a little bit of the alizarin crimson. And what I like to do is just add a little bit of white to each of them. And then you can decide on which pink you like better. And you can see what color is going to be closer to the pink that you really want. So we've got, this one is the alizarin crimson, which I think I'm gonna want to use the magenta. Yeah. I mean, I could use also a combination of the two. It's almost got, in some of these areas here, you can see it's got almost like an orangish tint to it. So you could almost use, like, so in some of these areas, they're a little bit more the quinacridone magenta, but in that area there, kind of near the top, you can tell that there's like maybe even a little bit of the orangish red in there. Mix that in a bit. So we've got the cadmium red light, and then we're also mixing in the alizarin crimson. That's going to give us more of like that orangish tint, and I think that will actually be pretty close to the color we want. Yeah. You get to know your colors over time, but this is like a good way to experiment with your colors at the start when you're just getting started and you're just learning what the colors kind of mix. Just add a little bit of titanium white and see how that plays a role in the color. So I will mix these kind of quinacridone magenta ones first. We'll just start with those ones, and then we'll also mix some little tones for like these areas too, because it's nice to give a little bit extra color excitement in the shadows. It's definitely reflecting light from different areas, which is why the colors are slightly different. I'm just gonna mix that one. Probably should make sure we have a really dark one too. Might lighten that a little much. Let me see. So this one, yeah, that looks like pretty good in those dark areas. And we can always mix some more colors. I try to get kind of like the base colors I want to use down on my palette first. So I'm just going to put them over to the side here in cute little piles. It just makes it a little bit more organized, and we can be like, okay, this is the top of the cupcake, this is the bottom of the cupcake, and then we've got like a background color. Organizing the colors a little bit. Okay, and then we've got this beautiful color. This is a really nice color. I like how it's got like an orangey tint to it. It'll look really nice. Okay, let's see if that's okay. Yeah, that's pretty close to what we want. I'm gonna leave that over to the side because I kind of want to mix like a transition color for that. I want some of that lighter color as well. So I'm going to take that and a little bit more of the quinacridone magenta. Not a lot, but I want to get that lighter color in there. Now when you add a lot of titanium white, I find that it's a little bit harder to spread with your brush. So I end up using maybe like a little bit of medium. So I've got some linseed oil here for oil paints. I mean, disregard that if you're using like acrylics or something. But I mean, you can get acrylic mediums as well. I have a whole video of the mediums that I like to use. I specifically don't like using solvents when I'm painting. That's why I use the Gamblin oil paints, because they only mix the pigments with linseed oil, which is nice. The binding ingredient is just linseed oil instead of some of the other fillers that other paint brands use. I like to stay away from the solvents because they're really not good to be inhaling. Some of the past artists that used them definitely didn't do so well. Okay, I like that pink. That's nice. I'm not going to go too crazy with all the transition colors. We're just going to kind of keep it pretty simple for the most part. Okay, and then we've got this color here. That's like our darker area. So I'm gonna take most of that and we'll put it over to the side. It'll be like the darker area that we use. And then I'm also going to put a little bit more of the titanium white in there to lighten it for those lighter areas. Okay, let's see how that mixes up. Yeah. Feel free to, if you're watching this back, ask me questions and I'll come back to this video if you end up having some questions. Okay, and I'm just going to compare that with the colors that I want. Actually want to go like maybe a little lighter. I'm gonna take most of that, put it here, and then I'll also do an even lighter one as well. Now we're not trying to match the colors exactly, but we're still trying to get colors very similar, because I really, like, I edited this photo in a way that I really want it to show up in the painting. I didn't have a cupcake though, so I went on Canva and I grabbed a random cupcake and then I edited a nice little background in it this time. I didn't have enough time to make cupcakes. I should make some cupcakes for Valentine's Day. Okay, so we've got those pinks. Those would be really nice. We've also, on the top of the cupcake, we've got the little sprinkles. So one of them is very like white, almost like the paper color. So I'm just going to use probably a bit of titanium white for those sprinkles. Those ones are on more of the like bluish end too. So I'll probably even make like a highlight color by taking the titanium white and a little bit of cerulean blue, like the smallest amount of cerulean blue. Don't add too much. I find the cerulean blue is very pigmented. Okay, very small amount, but it'll give us that cooler white. Titanium white's already kind of on the cooler side. It's not like a warm white. I was putting warm white on my palette for a while there, but you don't really need it because you can also just make your white warm. It's kind of like one of those colors you don't specifically need. It's this one here. Little warm white. And then let's see. I think I want it cooler. There we go. And if you're having trouble with colors as you're like laying them down on the paper too, I would suggest you do like an underpainting. A lot of people enjoy doing underpainting. It's not necessary. It definitely can help bring out certain colors if you're looking for that in your painting. But it can just give you like a non-white surface to work on, because it is really hard to work on a white surface if you're not used to color mixing and like the colors. So you could just do a quick little layer of like acrylic paint that's a bit colored. It doesn't have to be like super bright colors if you don't want to. A lot of people like using bright colors. So you can just do kind of a base color and then paint on top of that. Okay, and then our next section is, I guess we will do like the little red, the cute little red sprinkles there. So I'm going to use alizarin crimson for those, which is this one here. Oh, I gotta use this back color. And we're going to keep most of that. We're not going to lighten it a bunch. And then in some of the shadow areas, we've even got some more bluish tones. So I'm going to grab some of the ultramarine blue and make that darker color I was talking about. And this will give us like a really deep purple, and this will help us in those darker areas, especially in the bottom of the cupcake there where the shadows are. Okay. And I guess I don't talk about this a lot, but I realize that some people also don't like mixing with a palette knife. And the reason I like mixing with a palette knife is mostly just to not destroy my brushes, because a lot of people mix with their brushes, and it's really bad when you get paint too close to the ferrule of the brush, which is like kind of this area right near the tip. You really don't want paint to be going too close to it, because it ends up like making your brush do this. It's kind of splayed in the middle because and it also like affects the glue that's in there too, and it's hard to wash them out. So if you can, make sure you get a palette knife so you're not mixing with your brushes. It's a good practice to start right at the beginning, so then you're not like damaging your brushes right off the bat. And then I'm gonna get more of that other alizarin crimson again. I'm gonna add just a little bit of white to it for the shadow area part on the top, or the shadow, the highlight area. So you can tell there's a bit of a glow on the top of it. So I'm gonna use that. That looks pretty good. Okay, got all of those colors mixed, and then we're going to work on the nice yellow color for the cupcake. I imagine it is a vanilla cupcake. I love vanilla cupcakes. Vanilla cupcakes with vanilla icing is so good. With like fruit on top too. Like I like to have my cupcakes with maybe like a strawberry on top would be good, or like a raspberry. That would be good. Or if the icing was like mixed in with like some berries, that would be good. Okay, so for the yellow, we're gonna start out with the cadmium lemon, which is going to be way too bright. We definitely don't want our yellow to be that bright. But just so you can compare it, take the color on your palette knife and just hold it up, and you'll see right away that it's definitely too bright. Now I'm going to teach you how to pick out colors here. You get better at it over time if you do it quite a bit, but you learn how to see different colors within your image over time. So this yellow is obviously too saturated and bright. We need to tone down the color a little bit, just so it looks like a yellow cupcake, like a vanilla cupcake and not a super lemony cupcake. So what we're gonna do is we're going to, I guess I can explain the color wheel. So you can take the contrasting color to it, which in yellow's case would be kind of like that like purpley blue section of the color wheel. And we can take that and just tone it down. So I'm going to take a little bit of the ultramarine blue. You don't want to put too much because it's going to make it green. Because yellow and blue make green. And that'll tone down the color a little bit. It's also more on the light end, so I would add a little bit of the titanium white to it as well. Get a little bit more of that blue. I don't want to make it too green. And then after you mix that, take that color back up, look at it. It's going to be more on the green end, and then we can see that there's also some orange kind of like in there, which would be red. So we want to add a little bit of the alizarin crimson to it to add kind of that orange tone to it. So far we've added the cadmium lemon and then the ultramarine blue and a little bit of the alizarin crimson. Now that's going to be like really, really bright, but a little too on the orange side. So I'm going to add some more cadmium yellow back in there. And now we're just like taking the colors and we are playing with it. I'm going to take some water before I keep mixing. We're playing with it until it looks more like the colors we want. I'm actually noticing that this color might be pretty close to we need it a little bit darker, I think, in some of those areas. It's not quite there. The area I'm looking at is the oranges. If you have the image blown up, you can see that the oranges like in this area are more. So we're kind of just working on these little shadow colors, and then the yellow part there in the image. You can definitely see it more when you blow up the image. Grab that on my website. Okay, I'm just adding a little bit more yellow to that. And a little bit more of that blue to add those green tones in there. And that's specifically for the shadow area. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's actually really close now. Perfect. And you might think like that looks gross. That's not the color of the cupcake, but it is. It definitely is. And when it sits beside the other colors, it will look really nice. That's the thing, like I said, painting on a white surface can sometimes be a little tricky in that sense. So definitely have the colors against something less bright white, and that'll help not trick your eye as much. Yeah, that color looks perfect. So I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to keep a little bit on my palette knife there. And we're going to slowly start to lighten it into those other colors. So we're going from that shadow color all the way into the lighter section. And so in order to get that lighter, we're going to add a bit of white to it, the titanium white. Just add little bits at a time too, because it's hard to go back after you've added white to it. And sometimes go a little too much. And then into these front areas, yeah, that's looking pretty good. Into these front areas, there is a little bit more yellow, so I am going to add a bit more of that bright yellow, because in the shadows, you don't normally see such saturated colors, but then as you get into the light, you're gonna get more of those bright pigmented colors. Okay, let's see how that looks now. That is definitely what we are looking for. I'll do that. And then I also want a slightly brighter color, so I'm going to keep a little bit on my palette again. And then you can kind of see that there's a very highlighted color over here. It's definitely got that, like, you can almost use this highlight color here, the bluish one. It will do pretty well in that area. But I'm also going to make one that's just slightly brighter. Having the transition colors pre-mixed just makes the painting process go a little bit easier. I find it's like more peaceful that way, because then you're not spending the actual painting section of the painting mixing a ton of colors. You've already got them pre-mixed, and you can just like focus on laying the colors down where you want. Okay, there we go. We've got that one there. And then we're going to work on the wrap part. So here and then into these like beautiful kind of like oranges. You can tell that it's a bit more crispy on the bottom, so you've got kind of that darker orange, and I really like that. We're going to start out with a little bit of the alizarin crimson, and then also the cadmium red light. That's obviously going to be way too bright, but if you hold it up, you'll see that it needs to go more on the desaturated side. So again, we're going to use that opposite of the color wheel. Right now we're going to add probably a little bit of like greenish to it. That's why I like to also keep green on there. It helps with desaturating certain colors. So we can take some of this. The one behind it is the older one. Oh, that's going to be way too much. I'm going to put that on the side. Little bits at a time so you don't go too crazy. And then I'm going to lighten this. Instead of with white, I'm going to use a little bit of yellow, which will give it that orange that we're looking for. Yellow is a really good color to lighten with too if you're working in that like red orange section, and then you don't have to add as much of the titanium, which I find the titanium, if you add too much of it, like I said, it's harder to spread those colors, and then you end up needing to put like a bit of linseed oil in it. But if you just use the other colors instead and use the yellow, oh, that's perfect. That's a great orange. So that's exactly what we're looking for. I'm going to start making a little pile here. So that is the bottom color there, and then we're going to slowly go into these lighter sections. And we are going to use some of these other colors we made within the wrapper as well. You can tell some of those colors definitely are within the wrapper. I love painting the wrappers too. They're like so fun to paint the wrappers because you get all of the cool like lines and all of the shadowing. And okay, we are going to lighten this with a little bit of titanium white this time, and with the lemon yellow as well. Take some of this color we left over at the side. And I'm not mixing a lot, but if you're using a bigger piece of paper or canvas, then you probably want to mix a slightly more amount of color than I am. Because ideally we don't have to come back and like mix more color. Sometimes it happens where you have to come back and like mix more, but that's okay. Okay, let me see if that's, yeah, that's like the next transition color there. And then we'll also do the slightly lighter one, which has more of that yellow in it. See how that color is looking. I need to lighten it a bit with the titanium white. Okay, let's see how that's looking now. Yeah, that's closer to what we want. Perfect. Close enough. That looks good. And then now we can start working on the background. We want to make more of like a bluish purple in that darker section, and then slowly work to those lighter colors. Make sure you're cleaning off your little mixing area in between so the colors don't mix. We definitely don't want that orange color in our nice blue background. Or at least I like to, especially for those colors that are very different. Okay, and then I'm going to use a mix of cerulean blue and the ultramarine blue for the background. So in the shadow, we've got more of that bluish purple, so I'm going to add a bit of the alizarin crimson to that, and we'll get that nice deep purple, but we want the purple to be more on the blue side. Just making sure it's more blue than red. There we go, nice and deep purple. That'll be kind of the darkest color on our palette. Okay, I'm gonna start making little piles here. That's the background color. So we've kind of separated it. That's like the top color. And then we've got the wrapper and the muffin with the cupcake. And then we've got the background color. And then we're gonna move from here into more of that ultramarine blue, into those deeper colors. So pretty. I think I might have lightened it a little much. I'm gonna add a bit more of the ultramarine blue to it. Like I said, if you add too much white, it's hard to come back if you've added too much white to something. Let me see if I can make this color work in there. Yeah, I can definitely work in there. Okay, I'll have a bit of that as a transition color. And then now we're gonna start working with the cerulean blue. I've got a cat. Hey, Mona. Cute that their cat tree is in the corner now. They can hang out with me. Hey, Mona. You guys get to see them in the background now. And yes, she has a little mustache, if you're wondering. She's got the cutest little mustache. Okay, I'm gonna put some white to the side there. for the cerulean blue, I should keep some of it just kind of the cerulean blue, and then we'll slowly add some white to it. Okay, that blended a bit, and then we need to add some more white. And then since we keep adding titanium white to it, we're going to have to make sure we add some medium when we're painting, which is just the linseed oil. And that's definitely some of the lighter areas. Perfect. And then we'll also get some more of that. There we go. And if we feel like we need more titanium white while we're working, we could also put some more on the palette later. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then we can get started with the actual painting process, which is nice. I'm just gonna clean off this area here. So we've got a nice clean palette to start in case we need to mix any more colors while we are in the middle of painting. And I like to just flip over the rag and use that. And you'll be able to see my palette as we are painting. I have set it up that way, so then you'll be able to see this process. And then maybe I'll also put, I could put some of that there. So then you can see when I'm dipping into the linseed oil as well. So we will transition to the painting scene now. I'm just gonna make sure everything's in frame here for you guys. Perfect. So we've got the main painting scene. Hopefully it's bright enough there. Okay. I'll just make sure to get my camera set up. I normally like having, I have a lot of cameras. I like to film a shorts kind of angle at the side, so I'm just setting up my phone so I can film shorts kind of here at the side. Perfect. And then I guess we will start out with maybe this. I'm doing a mini painting, so I don't need to use like super massive brushes or anything. This one is a Seneca brush. This one's a flat brush, number 0 brush. It's a pretty good size. I think it'll let us get some of those bigger areas. I love to use flat brushes. I realize like over time that I really enjoy using flat brushes. And now I've already done a little sketch here. I'm going to take first, before we start painting, I have a little bit of graphite on there because I was sketching. I have a little like gum eraser here. Let me show you this little gummy eraser here. And we are just going to warm it up a little bit and then use that for the sketch. And then we can still see the sketch when I like dab it off, but it won't be as much graphite, so then it won't mix with the paint. Graphite is notorious for like mixing with the paint, especially the lighter colors that are more transparent, like the yellows, and some of the reds that I use are more transparent. And transparent just means that you can see through it a bit when you lay it on the paper. That's why a lot of people like using underpaintings, because it'll bring out certain bits of those colors. But I like my colors to be brighter, so I keep the white underneath for that reason. And then at least we could still see the sketch a little bit. All we really do, we don't need like a really detailed sketch underneath. I just drew out exactly like where the basic shape is going to be of everything, and that's all you really need for the painting process. Some people like to do a really detailed sketch because it helps them with the shading and where the shadows and stuff are, so you can also do that too. It can help for like practice to do that. You could try a few different ways to see what works for you. Oh, that's what I gotta do. I'm like, what is going on? I need to go to the manual setting. That's where it is. There we go. I was taking pictures the other day, so this is for my time lapses. I like to film time lapses as well. So if you go on my channel, you can actually see a lot of time lapses from like past paintings. There we go. And then we can start out. So I'm gonna start out with, I specifically like starting out with the subject. Sometimes I do the background, but I find my hand will get into things if I do the background first. So I don't do that as much anymore. So we will start with the top of the cupcake and all of the little creases and lines. I like to start out with the darkest color first because, like I was saying, when you add titanium white to things, it is really hard to go back to those darker colors. So that's why I like to start out with the darkest color. So we're going to lay down kind of a base layer. We're pretty much going to do an underpainting with the paint we mixed, is what I enjoy doing, and then I add more paint on top of it. So let's start out with the darkest areas. We've got, let's start out with this one, kind of that orangey one. I like that one. And we will start that out. So we're just gonna find where those darker areas are. Mona's mewing over there. So cute. This one is where this kind of darker color is. And we can always go back and add some more layers on top. We're just getting kind of those base layers in to start. And then we've also got darker color here. Are you guys heading out soon? I thought you guys were gonna be in bed all morning.
No.
I didn't actually think you guys were gonna leave today. We stayed up a little bit too late last night. Kind of that darker color around this area too. And then I'll start into some of this darker color too. The more pinky kind of one, which is more on this edge here. I think why it's slightly different is just because of the lighting. It's picking up light from different areas. Yeah, if you could feed her before you leave. No. Definitely feed the cats before you go. They're gonna bug me the whole time.
I can't babysit Kit Kat, so.
I'll give Mona her food and then bring Kit Kat's food over here and I'll supervise. Then at least they get their food before you leave. Okay, and now we're gonna start going into some of those lighter colors. So I'm gonna keep the color on here that's already on my brush, and I'm gonna slowly start adding that white into there. And I want my cupcake color to be like a little bit more colorful and less of that, like just a little bit of color. So I'm gonna kind of play with that a little. To clean off your brush in between, just dip it into a little bit of linseed oil. That will take off some of those darker colors. That works out pretty well. Okay. So grab that lighter color. I'm just going to add it to this edge here. That's a cat hair. Always finding cat hairs. We're just being very careful as we like blend it down. Try not to blend it too much. You can already see the shape kind of taking form as we get these little bits in. Slowly but surely we will get there. That's the thing with painting, is it just takes a little while to get there, but if you just kind of stick with the process and keep adding the colors in, it'll kind of come together at the end. Trying to convince our cat to eat. You put her wet food in it too?
This was last night's.
Okay. Yeah. We're trying to switch her food right now, so she's being super picky. Which, understandable. It's a new food. She's like, I don't know about this. And then we're going to take this color here and slowly play with these other ones. Hi, Kika. You gotta eat your food. Yeah, I'll do that. I will watch, because our other cat, Mona, the one that was on the cat tree earlier, she will come and try to eat all of the food. Okay. And then also add some more of that color here. It's okay, guys. I don't think the stream will care. We're trying to be like super duper extra quiet. Okay. I'm gonna clean off my brush a little bit with the linseed oil. Get a bit more of that pigment off so we can go into those lighter areas now. And the colors will also look very different on camera versus what they'll look like in person. So just listen to what your colors are looking like in person. I haven't been able to find a camera that makes the colors look accurate to real life yet. I hope you guys have fun. They're going to the gym. The gym jam. I feel like I really like painting cupcakes just because there's like so much movement and flowiness to them. And then we're gonna add like sprinkles on top to this area, so it's a lot of like little sprinkles on this area.
Love you.
Love you too. Have fun. And then this area here. Gotta paint more cupcakes. I should bake some cupcakes so I can paint more cupcakes. Trying to leave some room for those like highlight type colors as well. There's gonna be some sprinkles on this. Oh my goodness, the cats are getting into trouble over there. I can hear the chaos. Of course, right? As soon as my husband leaves, they start causing chaos over there. Specifically, Mona is causing chaos. Trying to figure out where I want some of these. Gotten more of the shapes now. Okay. And then this lighter shape here. Trying to keep it pretty thin because there's sprinkles that I want to put on top of it too. And I do want some of those, like the white from the background, to show through. I use the white background to my advantage a lot of the time because might as well have some of the white peeking through into those brighter areas. Okay, and then I'm gonna go in with that like bluish white now that we created with the cerulean blue and titanium white. Just gonna clean off my brush a little bit. Just gotta make sure that's like cleaned off enough so the colors don't bleed. One of the reasons I also like using just kind of like one brush for the most part while I'm painting is it's only one brush to clean at the end. I think I will use a slightly bigger brush for the background. This brush I'm using right now will kind of work for most of the areas. So we've got, oh, I'm shifting it. Did I shift the camera too much? There we go. Shifting the time-lapse camera. It's okay, it won't be too noticeable. I'm gonna add a little bit of linseed oil to this titanium white highlight. It's just harder to spread. Okay, added that on the side there. And then I'm gonna add this highlight into these areas as well. I kind of left room for them to be in these areas. And this one kind of wraps around. This one kind of like comes here and then wraps around here. There we go. Nice flowiness to those ones. And then there's definitely some of that brighter white in here. Okay. And then I'll also add a little bit over in this area. And you can see that like this white that I'm adding, this bluish white, really adds a lot of dimension. And we've got kind of some of it coming around this area here. I would say even some of these highlights are more on the warmer end on this side. But I'm just gonna use this, keep it kind of cool all around, just because I did change the background to that bluish color. So we'll keep with the cool highlights, I think. Kind of fun to play with the cooler highlights. Almost makes it look kind of like purpley. Go. And then we can come back in and add areas. There we go. And then we'll add some of the cupcake color. We can always come back and add a little bit more detail in that icing there. I'm not gonna add the sprinkles yet. I'm gonna work on getting some of the other colors down, and then I'm gonna go back and add the sprinkles in when we want to add some more detail, because I think I might want to add some more detail into the icing later on. But at least we got that like base layer down, and then we can play around with that a little bit. Okay, so cupcake color, we're starting out with these top 3 colors that we mixed here. We're going to start with that deeper color. Grab some of that on the brush. And then we'll start playing in these areas here. Get into those shadow areas. Like I said, it'll go on and feel really dark, but once we get the other colors kind of around it, it'll make sense color-wise that we chose this darker color. Okay. And then we'll slowly start to add those lighter colors in. So I'll go to the next color. And we're gonna work on and this lighter color as well, that third color we mixed. And now we're kind of just having to go around these little jaggedy edges and putting them in all of the little jaggedy parts. And we want there to be like a decent amount of texture in the actual cupcake, so try not to blend the colors too much, or at least that's my aim, is to not blend the colors too much. We can always touch up this color at the end too when we're adding details like around the cupcake line here. Just don't worry about getting it too accurate. I also don't paint like, I feel like my style isn't like hyper realistic by any means. It's like realism, but I try to kind of still be like, oh, this is a painting, just because I like that aspect of the painting. I'm gonna add some of those darker colors in. So we've got kind of this like coloring mix for that bottom section. I'm gonna just clean off my brush. And I'm gonna take some of that color. I'm gonna put it in right on the edges there, just to make it a little darker. Just in some of those little creases. I feel like it's supposed to be a little darker there. There we go. And there's definitely like in some of these lines. There we go. That's a really nice color. I like how that yellowish color turned out. I'm gonna have extra paint too. Maybe I'll paint another cupcake that's similar colors. I'm just cleaning my brush off, but it's slowly. Here, I'll turn this around. Then you can see how I'm cleaning it off there. Trying to keep everything in frame the best I can. Before every live stream, I spend quite a bit of time setting everything up so it all kind of runs smoothly. Last year I made a stream checklist, which was the best decision I could have made. So now when I do the streams, it's a little easier because I don't have to worry about missing something because I have everything on the list. And if I do miss something, I make sure to add it onto the list for next time. Slowly getting better over time is what it comes down to. Okay, and then I'm gonna add some of that. I haven't been using my arrow. I have an arrow down here. I'm gonna add some of this lighter color in over on that section now. And that has more of that, this little highlight color we were using on the icing. I'm gonna use that one again. Just to like really brighten up. Just to really brighten up that section. Okay. There we go, that's a little brighter. And then I'm gonna start working on the wrapping part. So I'm gonna add in those darker tones first near the bottom, and then we'll work our way up to the lighter. So we're gonna work with these three colors now. And then yeah, we'll add the highlight parts of that after we get those dark colors in. So we're pretty much just gonna, where I put the lines is where the darker color goes. And I did that because the lighter areas are quite light and I didn't want the graphite to get into those lighter areas. Though I feel like titanium white is pretty opaque. So we will be okay. Okay, so we'll grab this darker kind of orange color. That is like right at the bottom here. I'm just gonna kind of get that at the bottom. And then as it moves up, the colors get a little lighter. This kind of goes to the side a little bit. Okay, these parts are a little bit lighter as it gets to the outside, so I'm not going to go too crazy with that. And then we're going to get the next transition color, which is the slightly deeper one. You can tell how like thinly I'm kind of putting this on. And that's just to get the base color down. And then we'll go into this next color. These colors are going to be kind of combined, so I'm really not worrying about cleaning my brush off in between for this specific section. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly start adding those lighter colors in. So I'm going to add a little bit of this lighter color up here that we mixed for the actual cupcake. Get a little bit of both. Yeah, maybe this middle color here works a little bit better. We'll start with that, and we can always lighten it a little more. I'm just adding it around that area, keeping those darker colors in the middle, but slowly transitioning the colors out to that lighter color. Okay, and then we're going to slowly clean that up with the lighter color. So we're going to go in with that really bright white that we mixed. I'm just going to clean my brush off so we don't get it into that white. I don't actually want too much of that blue in there, so I might grab a bit more titanium white if I can get it out of the tube anyway. Oh, there we go. Just gonna grab a bit of that titanium white and put it in this section here. I just don't want it as blue. The main highlight colors are blue, but this one Move that out of the way. Got all these cables around me. Put a little bit of linseed oil in it. Trying to keep it kind of lighter on this side because that's where a lot of the light is coming from. To do some of the more detailed parts in this area, I think we might grab a smaller brush at some point. But for now, it's okay. And then can I just add a little bit more of that linseed oil? I want to go crazy. Okay. Okay, that's coming together a lot better now. Just adding a bit more titanium white in the medium. I'm gonna sharpen up these white lines a little bit. And you might have to just keep coming back and grabbing a little bit of that white you mixed. To get those sharper lines. And the main focus, I would say, is on the top anyway, so you don't have to add a ton of detail. The other thing is, like, when oil paint's dry, you can come back and touch things up if you want. I like to do mine just in one sitting because I tend to be a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to my work, and I can come back so many times and like touch things up. But I just have tried not to do that in the last couple of years when I've been painting. It's really helped me not be so controlling and just kind of like let yourself enjoy the process a little bit more when you're not worrying about all of the little details all the time. There we go. Slowly coming together. That is what I was looking for. And then I can also start to add a little bit of this light color. I might have to grab a slightly smaller brush. Let me grab a slightly smaller brush for this area. We have, there we go. This one is a 10/0, so it's quite small. We could also grab, I have a slightly smaller one as well. Where is it? A 20/0, so an even smaller one. A little bit of linseed oil to the brush. And that'll give us even finer lines around that area, which is kind of what we're looking for. Make sure these areas get a little bit more detail. And then what we can also do, hello, how's it going? I know most of my audience watches the replays because they can't be here at this time, but it's nice when people stop by, so there we go. Slowly getting that in there. I also tweaked some settings on my streaming software the other day, so hopefully these streams are also filmed in slightly higher quality now. I mean, it also depends on, I guess, how well the internet is. But the playback should be at least 1080p now. I was like, the streams aren't recording in like very good quality. There must be a way that I can like fix that. Little improvements every day, right? Or every stream to make things a little bit better each time. I was talking to an artist last night and I realized that my stream setup is maybe like overwhelming if you're like beginning and you just want to like get into streaming. And when I first started streaming, I only had my phone and one tripod. And now obviously the setup is a little bit more, I guess, intense than that now, but you really can start out with very little gear to begin with, and then like just slowly add little bits at a time. Like you don't need to have, how many cameras do I have here? A lot of cameras. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cameras right now, all kind of doing different things, but you can start out a little bit easier at the beginning. A little less overwhelming if you just start out with one and learn how to use one with the streaming software. Because really all you need is like this to start out. It is nice to obviously have the palette screen, but you'll get there over time. But I can understand how overwhelming that is. And before I started doing these mini paint challenges, I actually used to help my husband with his Twitch stream. He played like tournament games on Twitch in a few different categories. Mostly auto chess was like his thing at the time. And I helped him stream all of that and control the back end. So I learned how to use Streamlabs OBS and just like regular OBS during that time. And it's kind of helped me into like this process now, which is, it's kind of nice I can use those skills into this now. Okay, and I'm gonna darken. I'm gonna deepen some of those areas. Notice in the cupcake here, probably add some of those. It's almost kind of like spotting some areas. And then we can add some of those darker colors into this area just to have a bit more depth in here, because once you add too much white you need to like darken some of the other colors a bit. So you can go back in and kind of like play around with the values of everything. Just kind of like that light and darks of the painting so things can pop a little bit more. Sometimes you have to readjust the values as you add more stuff. And also you just like to go back in and like add more detail in certain areas. And then they will really pop. I just want these to like pop a little bit more. There we go. That made it like pop a little bit more on this section there. I found it wasn't doing as well. Okay. And then adding little hearts and stuff. I can see it. Thanks for being here. And then we've got, I feel like this got darker. I feel like I need to like bring my light around. Let's bring my light around so it brightens up this painting scene a little bit more. There we go. The sun has disappeared outside. We actually got our first snowfall on Vancouver Island the other day. Oh, okay, cat, don't do that. She almost stepped on the paint. Can you not? That's the thing with cats. They like like to come in and step all over everything. Okay, and then I want to get some of the background in now. So I'm gonna grab the slightly bigger one. This is a number 2 flat brush. So you can see that we'll be able to get a little bit more of the background in with this brush here. We're gonna start out with those darker areas. So let's start out with maybe this darker color, not the darkest color. And just gonna work some of that into there. Get that cerulean blue, add that in. Slowly bring in those lighter colors too. And I've got kind of like a little effect in the corners that I did in Photoshop where I made the corners like a little darker. Just because I thought it would be kind of nice. And then we'll add, I'm going to add some linseed oil in on the side. Just kind of put that in on the side so it's easier to spread. I'll go into this lighter color now. Here, I'll try to give Kit Kat her food back. She's probably up here because she wants her food. Don't let Mona eat it though. Just always let Mona eat her food. I like this blue background. Love using blue backgrounds. I've used them on a few other things. Like here's like one of my other paintings I did with a blue background. Like, I just love the blue backgrounds. They're so fun to play with. So that's what we're doing. So we're getting that nice blue in there. Don't want to blend it too much in the background. Not like an overlap of colors. I'm gonna go into the lighter one. And I still want to add some of that darker color a little bit close to this area still. So I'm not going to go too crazy with that. I'll add a little bit of that to this area here. gonna add it into this white here, just because it had some linseed oil in it. Go. There's not much to say on this part, you're just I'm focused on the colors and adding these in. Okay, now we're gonna add those lighter colors. I'm gonna clean my brush a little bit. There's some of those darker blues on there and I want to add more of that lightness into it. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this titanium white. More cat hairs. Okay. Add a bit more of that titanium white in there. And I want it to kind of glow on this side. So I'm adding more of that white over here. Slowly transitioning it into that darker color. Go back in and I guess I'm blending it a little. Not too much though. I'm gonna just clean my brush off again so you don't get too much of that darker pigment in there. Get back into that lighter color. Cerulean blue can be pretty, I guess, overpowering, so
Just gonna clean this up a little bit. Kind of going back to that. It's just cleaning it up a little. Some of the blue got in it, but that's okay because there's also going to be like reflections and stuff there anyway. Want that a little lighter. Just coming back in, lightening some things up. Kind of still want to make like this side a little darker. I think I brought too much of that lighter color in there. I still want it to look like the light is coming from like this angle. I'm gonna add some of that darker part back in there. Take some of the white out of my brush. Some of that lighter blue. And then I'm gonna slowly transition back into that deeper color. Go. I kind of like sharpen up the lines down here. We'll kind of add like a shadow if we get that darker color in this bottom section here. Just going back in now and adding some of that detail. What I like to do too, if I want to blend the background a little bit more, which I do this time, I have this like little, they're called mop brushes. This one is a mini mop, and it's got kind of like a, you just take it dry, and you can take this brush and kind of blend it out. It helps with the blending of backgrounds and stuff. What I'll do is I'll normally take the mop brush and just, when there's pigment on it, I'll brush a bit more of it off just to have the brush a bit more dry again. There we go. That helped a bit to do that. Just using this little brush, and might even make that line underneath the cupcake a little darker with that kind of like purplish color that we've made, that like really dark purple, just to make it pop even more. There we go. That's more how I wanted it. And then we still have those like dark sections in the corner, but not as intense. And then there we go. I like the blue background on this. This looks pretty cute. Okay, and then yeah, we'll go in with those darker colors. So I'm gonna grab that like very fine line one. I'm gonna clean it off because it's still got a bit of that other pigment on it. And then we'll dip it in the purple and do those darker areas. Just want to make sure we don't have any of that pigment on it. And then we'll grab this purple here, this one at the top. The reason I didn't do the purple first is because I just really didn't want that into the background at all. I wanted it to just stay right underneath. Do this section here. We'll put it right under here. I'm going to keep it mostly to this back area. I don't want to bring it into the front area too much because that's where the light's coming from. The shadow's going to be less on that front area. And then I'll grab my other brush that I was using for the background. Just come in and soften those lines up a little bit. just pull a little bit of that darker color down a little bit. There we go. There, that made it stand out a little bit more, right? And we're gonna kind of do the same thing like here as well. We're gonna darken some of those areas a bit more, just to make like it pop a little bit. That's like a simple thing that you can do, is kind of deepen certain areas and lighten certain areas, really playing with the values in your paintings with those light and dark areas. Okay, just cleaning off my brush. So those dark areas there. Okay, and then we're going to work in those colors. So we've got, I might add a little bit of this kind of reddish color in. Mix this one and this one here. Just make it a little darker. I'm gonna really get those darker areas in there. Go, just adding those darker areas in. You can tell it like makes it pop a little bit more when you do that. And I'm just lightly fading it into the other colors. So the nice thing about oil paints is they don't dry very quickly, so you can kind of blend the colors for even days afterwards. Normally within the first day, like my oil colors, they start drying because I don't use any mediums that the linseed oil will make it take a little bit longer to dry, so that's why I don't like to add too much of it. Sometimes that's actually really helpful to what you're trying to achieve in your painting. And then that area up here. And I'm really going to work on getting some of those sprinkles in. That was kind of the last step. Perfect. And now I'm going to grab, which brush do I want to use? Maybe I'll use this little brush. This one is an angle shader brush. It's a 1/8, 1/8 type of brush, and I'm going to add the darker sprinkles in first. So these red ones. And I want people to know that it's a Valentine's one, so I'm going to make the hearts a little bit more defined compared to what you see in the reference photo. kind of add a little bit more of lighter tone this area. Might have to come in and like brighten these up at some point. Once it's dry. They actually don't look too bad. And I am adding a little sprinkle here and a darker sprinkle up here. I'm also going to add this one in here because I feel like it adds a little bit of balance. Add in some of that brighter red. Just feel like I need some of that red in there. So there's a bit more contrast between the other colors that are there. So we're improvising with the sprinkles. I'll add a bit more of this red. I'm going to add another sprinkle in here as well. Just kind of the one side of the heart. It's kind of like peeking out. Go. Add some of those pink sprinkles in too. So I'm going to clean off my brush a little bit so we can really play with the pink sprinkles. And I'm going to make them more like this color here. We've got up here the quinacridone magenta. I could grab a little bit from that pile, make it slightly darker because we used a little bit of that color in the painting already. Just so there's a bit of separation. And so I'm gonna put this one probably around this area here. We'll add some dimension to that after, but let me just maybe another one in over here. I'll put one kind of this section, so it's kind of like peeking out as well. And get one in there. I think over here would look good too. There we go. And then I want to adjust that one there. Just reaching for all the brushes now. I'm just grabbing a round brush and I'm going to dip it in this lighter pink here. Because I don't like how this one is sitting. So we can just adjust it. To get that darker color that's here to the side of this one. I might have to use a slightly smaller brush to get the details on those little hearts, but it's kind of the, yeah. And then I want kind of some of those brighter ones as well. They're more of that like blue tone. I'm gonna grab some titanium white, put in this blue tone here. Nice thing too about doing icing is it's thicker and it'll look kind of nice if you have a little bit of that paint texture in it anyway. So we're like adding it on thicker as we add more. Okay. some of those little highlights. Slowly add there. Kind of added some of those other ones in. I'm going to add some details into some of the hearts now with the very tiny brush. Take this that just adds a little bit of there we go. And I'm gonna slowly add this one too. We're just adding that kind of darker edge onto the shadow side, just to make it pop a little bit more, because they're not really popping as much as I'd like them to right now. So on the darker end, so the shadows are kind of in this direction and we've got the light kind of coming more from this angle. So just adding that shadow in now. There we go. And the shadow on this one as well. And this one. I'll grab that lighter color. There we go. Now you can tell that there is some nice little hearts on the top. Not too bright, but just the right amount. Little hearts. And then I want to make a little bit darker areas down here within these kind of like orangish colors, except I want more of that purple in there. Like the orange and purple, combine them a little bit to get that deeper brown color. Now we're going to add some of that into this area. We can blend it out too, so it's not too harsh, but I think the kind of need it a little darker. It'll make the icing pop a little bit more if that part is a bit darker. And then we'll go from, well, we're pretty much done. Just have to add these darker bits in. I'm gonna add a little bit more to this shadow here. I think we need more in that back corner too. Just adding that darkness into even this part here. Those lines. Notice that they need to be a little darker, just to show that the cupcake wrapper is there. And just to show that the light is on the one side, as we get over here it's definitely darker. That'll help if we add a little bit of that dark contrast so you can tell it's lighter, and then it goes to these darker colors over here. Oh, I like this one. It's so cute. And then we're gonna add some darker sections into the wrapper. You could also blend out the wrapper a little bit more. Now we're just adding those details into the middle a bit. They definitely need to be blended out a bit. It's a little messier than I like it. I should check on our timing too. I try not to make these streams go past, we're not even close to 3 hours. We got plenty of time. I want these streams to be so you can sit down in 2 to 3 hours and paint something. There has been times where we actually get the painting done within maybe an hour and a half. That's why the mini paintings are also nice too. And then leaving the live streams up lets you come back to it if you end up wanting to come back and do it in a few sittings as well. I need to blend that out a little bit. So I have these these really crappy old brushes that I destroyed. They're just a 2/0 round brush, that Princeton Velvetouch ones. I completely destroyed them, but they're great for blending small things. So now I just use them for blending these smaller areas. There's a use for every brush, even if you think you've destroyed the brush. It's almost nice to have a set of brushes that are a little raggedy. They definitely come in handy for stuff like this, because then you don't really care if you're like blending stuff out with them. I want to make, I think, this part a little darker over here. I think I want to darken that area a little bit. And then we'll lighten the other side a little bit more. As we transition to this side, we'll make it a little brighter. I'm going to grab a little bit that titanium white. So we bring this in. Oops. I mean, that actually looks kind of nice. Bringing in some of that blue, like it's reflecting off the background. Happy little accidents. I kind of like that, bringing that blue background into it a bit. Adds a little bit more visual interest there. I feel like that's what it was lacking. Bringing that blue into it. I actually kind of want to bring a little bit of the blue into the icing as well. I think will really make it look nice. So just taking a little bit of that blue, really putting it on those highlighted areas there. You can just play with it a little. Add those blues in. There we go. Oh, I kind of like that, adding the like blues in. That was a nice little touch at the end. Okay. Well, I'm gonna call that because that's yeah, I like that. Okay. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream today. It was nice to hang out with you guys, and if you're watching back, thanks for hanging out and stopping by. Make sure I will go to the next scene so you can see that. Thanks for being here, and again, you can tag me at Megan Josol Art on. I'm normally on like Instagram or Facebook. I've been actually using Threads more too. I have a Threads as well, so you could tag me on there as well, and use the hashtag Mini Paint Challenge. So then I can go and look at all your art, and I can share some of your art on my stories because I love seeing your little paintings as well. It's so fun to do this as a group and just see everyone's little past paintings from all of the different ones. It's fun to like look at the hashtag and go back and look at everything. But make sure if you're new here, you also subscribe to my YouTube channel and sign up to my email list so you get the reference photo sent to you every month. And I will see you in the next live stream. Okay, bye.